The Toronto real estate market crashed in 2023. It just wasn't the crash we thought we were waiting for. It wasn't a crash in prices. It was a crash in sales volume. The number of transactions that are going to take place by the end of 2023 is the lowest we have seen in the last 20 years. So in today's video, I'm going to break down what happened in 2023 because we're going to end the year actually with price growth across the board in a market with so much uncertainty that that's not a statement I thought I'd be making. I'm also going to discuss opportunities that I can see for buyers and sellers as we head into 2024. My name is Tom Storey. I run a real estate team here in the city of Toronto. We've helped over 100 people in 2023 buy and sell properties. So we're on the ground level and we have a very good understanding of what is actually going on. You compile the active data on the streets versus the actual numbers coming out from the boards, and that's what I'm going to try and break down in today's video. If you learn anything new, all I ask is you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to book an appointment directly with me, you can do that in the first link in the description at a time that works for you. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, grab some popcorn. Let's go over how we got to this point in 2023. So this would be a market recap so far until the end of November. All right. So let's jump in and look at the year over year stats. So the November numbers were showing that sales volume was down 6%. That's actually pretty interesting because last November was not a very good month either. So having less sales than that just shows everything happening right now is that buyers are not making decisions very fast, and I can understand why. New listings was up 16%. Now, one thing I've always been focusing on is the active listings. So we had 16,000 active listings at the end of November 2023. Now, that is 40% higher than last year. Last year, we still relatively had lower inventory. We started this year like that. But this 16,000 number, that was at 19,000, approaching 20,000 just a few months ago. So we've actually seen inventory come down over the past few months. But that is something that's fairly normal seasonally as well. Your active sale price is up 0.3% from at the same point last year. Now let's focus in specifically on the city of Toronto. So if you take a look where we started the year, the average sale price was actually just a shade under $1 million. And right now at the end of November, it's just slightly higher than that. And you can see how the year kind of played out where we saw growth in those first 5 months, and then it's kind of come down and actually surprisingly jumped up a little bit in September or October. But you could probably look at that and say, well, not a lot of transactions were happening. So if there was some higher price sales, it would have bumped up those numbers. Now, that's the entire city of Toronto. But what about specific asset classes? So let's start with condos. Now, they are the asset class that I think is actually going to go down in price from the beginning of this year, which I would think they should. We are fundamentally in a buyer's market still very much so for condos, specifically in the downtown core. So we started the year in January just a shade over 700,000, and we're going to end the year kind of in the same place. I would anticipate the December numbers are going to be very similar to November or slightly lower. But if you take a look at what happened with the condo market, we saw growth until May, and then it's come down pretty much every month since. Now, these are numbers for condos just for the 416 area code. And this is showing me a few things. I don't know if this is the resiliency of the market, or if this is just sellers that are frankly being stubborn and just not selling for prices unless they can get them. But you didn't see as much of a dip in condo prices as you probably should have. As we jump to detached homes, this is where you see the biggest variation. So we started the year actually very low, and I know that's like a funny thing to say, but we started the year low with the average detached home price under $1.5 million in the city of Toronto. By May, it got up to 1.9. So we saw some pretty crazy growth. And we're going to end the year in the 1.65 range. Across the board, detached homes actually did see price growth in 2023. Semi-detached was fairly similar, where we started the year a little bit lower. It jumped up into the May and June months. And then we're going to end the year just pretty much where we started, slightly higher. We're up like, I think, 30 grand or something like that. So we saw growth in semis, in detached. We're going to see probably negative 1 or 2% for condo growth this year, which kind of makes sense. It actually should have been more than that, I would think. Now, at the beginning of this video, we talked about the crash that actually happened. It's a sales volume crash. We haven't had numbers like this since 2001, right? 20-year low in terms of sales volume taking place. And you can see it's all based on confidence. We started the year, there was no confidence in the market, right? And Bank of Canada said after January, okay, conditional pause on rates. We picked up February, we picked up March, April, May. Every single month, the sales volume has gone up. Then we had the rate increases in June and in July, and you see it's completely dropped off. Now, this is only tracking the 416 area code in the city of Toronto, but you can see the numbers. It's very, very clear. We had a good start to the year, and then we had a very, very historically low end to the year every single month. Now, why would sales volume be down? It's funny. In years where we say there's nothing to choose from, we actually have more sales, and that's simply just because the inventory is being absorbed at a very fast rate. But if you look into where the market is at right now, the city of Toronto has had over 4 months of inventory for 3 months in a row. You can see it started the year in the mid threes and then went all the way down under 2 for many, many months in the first 6 months. And then it's creeped up every month since. And the city of Toronto is very much in a balanced market, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, specifically because usually every year in the 416 area code, over 60% of all the transactions that take place are in the condo market because they are still the most affordable segment of the market. And the condo market numbers are actually pushing up the entire city. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So this is where on paper, you would have the biggest opportunity in the market just because there is a lot of options out there. And as we've talked about in previous videos, the fact that a lot of these are investors trying to sell. 75% of active downtown condo listings are tenanted or vacant. We had a pretty strong condo market in terms of low inventory for the first 6 months of the year, but it absolutely shot up from August to September. Look at that difference. We went from under 4 months of inventory, which is like a balanced but good market, to over 6 in 1 month. This is why it's kind of surprising to me that condo prices haven't seen more pressure going down. Now, for all these types of properties, what we're going to have to see as we get to the end of 2023, how many of these listings come off the market and then they wait for a better time next year, because that will then clear out the inventory. And there's a chance that we could actually, on the number side of things, start 2024 where people are complaining because there's nothing on the market. And how long it will last from there is, well, anybody's best guess. Now, moving forward into 2024, if you're somebody that is considering buying or selling, well, what should you do? And the actual answer is it obviously depends on what type of property you own and where it's located and what the inventory levels are. But it's looking like to me that, yes, rates are on the way down. How fast are they going to go down? Probably not that fast, but they are at least not going in the upwards direction anymore. For buyers, you could look at the next 90 days as an opportunity where the prices are still lower and the rates are currently higher, but they're going in this direction. That's been very clear from the announcements we've seen recently with the Fed and the Bank of Canada. But, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record on this, but you should not be buying a property in Toronto, period, if you're not going to own it for 5 years. And if you're a seller thinking of coming to the market right now, you just have to be absolutely realistic with what's going on. It's not the market we had before. It's a little bit slower. Could it pick up steam next year? It could. If there's talk about a rate cut happening in Q2, just the talk of the rate cut could bring more confidence to the market. But it's going to depend on how many buyers are approved to make purchases and how many active listings are on the market. We are at a point right now where if everything remains relatively the same, we should have a pretty similar year this year versus last year. And that's, 1 to 3% growth, which is actually something I would love to see because we've had crazy years in both directions kind of in the last 15 years. Hopefully those charts and this video brought you some clarity to how we got to this moment in time. If you're buying real estate is a long-term asset, if you think renting is a better alternative for you, by all means rent. But just make sure you know future-wise how you're going to try to build wealth in any asset of your life. It doesn't have to be real estate, but just know what success means to you. Try to create a path that you can follow that will get you to that point. Thank you so much for watching and happy holidays, everybody. I really appreciate you being here watching these videos. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe because my next video is my 2024 real estate predictions. My name's Tom Storey, and remember, home is where your story begins.